the entire planet that you can get into. According to Crunchbase, there are 8,607 private AI companies right now that you can't invest in for the most part. Likely never be able to because they'll probably be scooped up by big tech in the coming months, quarters, and years. So where does that leave us? In the research presentation that follows this short message, I go in depth with a company that won me over in fewer than 8 hours being with them. And I'm talking to you about this now because their patented AI technology is taking center stage with the billions of dollars on the move. The company's now revolutionizing defense, medical care, cars, and anything that needs to move without touch, voice, or manual screen commands. And that AI tech is only one of 23 patents they actually hold. The others are in virtual reality, augmented reality, and a ton of other critical emerging technologies. But the most exciting part is this. They just inked a deal with a major global tech company to expand their presence on the world stage in computers, robots, the Internet of Things, and the metaverse. I'll send you everything you need to know about this, updates on the deal, how to invest in the company, more about their patents, and a lot more after watching the research presentation following right now. So hang on, it's going to begin in just a second.
Let me introduce you to the man who calls it all, the world's #1 investment expert for uncertain times, Shah Gilani. Shah, thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Megan. Thank you for having me.
Now, folks, in a few minutes, we're going to break down everything you need to know about the companies Shah has found for you. The risks, the potential rewards, even real-world demonstrations of their groundbreaking products in action. Everything you need to know if you want to get in on the ground floor of what Shah believes are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. But before we get started, Shah, I have got to say you are one of the most prolific investors and analysts I've ever met. You've shown people how to make money in every corner of the market. You've covered stocks, you've covered options. When you were a market maker on the floor of the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, you actually helped create the VIX, a key index that controls billions of dollars in trading volume. And now you're diving into one of the most lucrative categories on the planet, the billionaire's reserve market. By that, we mean speculative investments in tiny private companies before they IPO. Shah, you're obviously a genius at this. You see trends no one else can spot. So why this market? Why now?
The first thing you've got to understand about me, Megan, is I have no loyalty to any class of investments. I'm not a stock guy per se. I'm not an options guy per se. I'm a money guy. I have 2 rules. Number 1, there's always a place to make money. And 2, don't invest $1 unless you think it can make you $1 million. Right now, you can't do that with stocks. You can't do that with real estate. The money's in the billionaire's reserve market. Just look at Hopin. They came onto the billionaire's reserve market on October 11th of 2019. At the time, the entire company was worth $3.1 million. February of 2020, they were worth $40 million.
That's 12x growth in just 4 months.
And they just kept going from $4 million in February to $244 million in June. Then that December, they were at $1.48 billion. That means they 12x, then they 6x, then they 6x again, all in 14 months. That's more than 47,000% growth in just over a year.
That's incredible.
No, the incredible thing is they still weren't done. That July, less than 2 years after they first hit the billionaire's reserve market, they were worth $7.6 billion.
We ran the numbers on that amazing increase before we started recording this interview. In 21 months, those reserve market investors saw the value of the company shoot up by more than 246,000%.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
So if I had put just $900 into that deal, my piece of the company would be worth over $2 million today?
No, because Wall Street and Silicon Valley wouldn't have let you in on that deal. Sorry to say, you're probably not rich enough. To get into that deal, you'd have to invest at least $100,000. That's what makes the opportunities we're talking about today so absolutely incredible. These are tiny companies with groundbreaking products, almost
unlimited upside that anyone can invest in. Now, that's not the norm. I'm about to show you the inner workings of a market that creates billionaires.
In that case, let's dive right in. Give our viewers the chance to decide for themselves if we're right about the potential here. So tell us about your first deal.
This one's a game changer. Their smallest market, which I predict their tech will own in the next 12 months, is worth $6.2 billion a year. From there, the sky's the limit because they're already testing their tech in markets that are 40 times that size. One of those markets is $65 billion a year. Another is $195 billion a year market. That's just two verticals. You go across the board, every industry they're going to touch, you easily get into the trillions of dollars.
Well, we'll talk about those numbers in a second. And Shah, you're predicting this company is going to make boatloads of money.
I have no doubts about that. Unless you understand the difference this product is going to make in people's lives, you'll never believe me when I lay out the upside. So I have a question. It's a little bit weird, but bear with me. I'm going somewhere with it. And that somewhere involves a lot of money. Can you imagine lying face down on a specially built bed 22 hours a day, every day for years? Because in 2010, you were in an accident? Your spine was injured. You're paralyzed below the neck. And if you're not strapped into a chair, you can't support the weight of your body.
That's horrible.
What's horrible is that for a man named Michael who lives in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, there is no imagining it because it happened to him. He's 50 years old. In 2010, his neck was broken in an accident. Since then, his life has been face down on a table. Now, there are a couple of tools out there to help people like Michael, but in my opinion, they're pretty horrible. If you don't have hands to work a joystick, do you know what the current solution is to control an electric wheelchair?
I don't.
It's called a tongue drive, and it's exactly what it sounds like. There's a joystick they put in your mouth. You move it with your tongue. They're uncomfortable, undignified, and they're not hygienic.
That sounds terrible. But where are you going with this?
What if I told you that the first reserve market company we're looking at today made all that obsolete? Instead, you put in a pair of earbuds, just like these, and you can control a wheelchair or a laptop or anything else with an onboard computer and a Bluetooth connection.
So you're saying someone like Michael could just put in a pair of earbuds and those earbuds could be used to control a wheelchair?
Not could be used, Megan, have been used. Michael has used a set of revolutionary earbuds created by this reserve market company to do it. And so have we. Let me show you a quick video.
You can see me in the wheelchair. I'm on a tennis court outside the company's facility in Pennsylvania. I've got the earbuds in my ears. And look, the chair goes anywhere I want. I want to go left, it goes left. I want to go right, it goes right. And you can see no hand gestures or verbal commands. Anywhere I look, it goes.
That's really incredible. Tell me, how are the earbuds doing that? What's exactly letting you control the chair?
We can dive into the technical stuff in a second, but let's try this. Put your pinky finger in your ear. Now, if you're watching at home, you can try this too. Now, open your mouth. Close it. Blink. Move your eyebrows. See how your finger can feel each of those movements? How they're each different and distinct?
Yeah, I can feel it.
Well, those movements are what the earpiece is picking up, just on a much smaller level. It's feeling what are called micro expressions, little jaw clenches or eyebrow movements. They're so small you don't even notice them in the video, but each one is associated with a different command for the chair.
So that's how you tell it to turn or stop.
Yes, the earbuds are tracking eye and head movements. They've got a little gyroscope in there. It can tell if you're looking left or right. So wherever you look, the chair goes. If you tilt your head back, it stops. If you nod your chin down, it goes forward.
Which really must be life-changing for anyone with these problems. For someone like Michael, it really is a new world in a tiny little box.
And there's more. The earbuds can also let you control a mouse that can move a cursor. That means he can type and use a computer for the first time in decades.
So anything you can do over the internet, he'll now be able to do. Order groceries, play games, stream shows.
He's actually going to be able to work for the first time in decades. He's got a job already lined up at a real estate office because everything can be done over the computer. And for the first time since his accident, he'll be able to work a computer without any help.
And everything you're showing us here, it all works right now.
The wheelchair is 100% functional right now. In fact, the company just signed a deal with one of the largest electric wheelchair companies in the world. The earbud control tech is being integrated into their wheelchairs. As soon as that integration work is done, this is going to be on the market.
Health startups like this can see awesome growth numbers. This is all in the analysis you gave me. AliveCore was founded in 2011 to help people who suffered strokes. They started at $9.5 million valuation. Today, they're worth $515 million. TidaCare has grown from $4.1 million in 2012 to over $100 million today. Komodo Health was worth $8 million in 2015. They're worth $3.3 billion today. That's more than a 40,000% gain.
And Megan, we've only touched on what this little company's technology can do. The electric wheelchair market is worth $6.17 billion a year. The entire disabled assistance market is $65 billion a year. Do I think they're going to dominate those markets? Sure, absolutely. Their solution is cheaper, faster, better than anything out there. But they only started with that disabled market because of Michael. He's good friends with the scientists who invented the earbuds. They were designed specifically to help him live a better life. So they have a human motivation to help him and other people in his situation. But that's not where they're going to make their money. Think about the market for a better human-machine interface, a device that can take your thoughts and turn it into a command for a computer or a robot or a machine without hand gestures or verbal commands. It's almost limitless.
That's a big claim.
And it's one I don't make lightly. But look at where the smartest, most successful investors in the world are putting their money right now. Elon Musk, Google Ventures, Sam Altman, they're all going in on this space in a very big way.
And by the way, folks, if you don't know who Sam Altman is, he's one of the best tech investors on the planet. He's the former president of Y Combinator, the most successful incubator for tech startups in history. At the age of 36, he's already worth more than $250 million. And Shaw, you're saying he's got money in this space?
That's right. He's got a ton invested in a company called Neuralink. It's a company that's trying to create an implantable microchip, one that would actually require neurosurgery to put it in, to let you control a computer with your mind. But here's the thing. Everything Neuralink wants to be able to do in a 5-year timeline, you can already do with these earbuds. Neuralink wants hands-free, voice-free control of robotic arm. But let me show you another video.
This is back at their headquarters in Pennsylvania. Watch the arm. It's going to go left. It's going to go right. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. Hand open, hand closed. And it's not my voice doing it. You can see I don't talk. I don't use my hands. I've got total control of that robotic arm. Neuralink wants to be able to drive a vehicle. You've already seen me do that, just using these earbuds and tiny changes to my facial expressions. Neuralink wants you to be able to type. You can type with these.
We're talking about being years ahead on functionality. And the market has already told us what that functionality is worth. Right now, Neuralink is worth $2.1 billion. The company we're looking at today is on the reserve market at $50 million.
I don't understand. How could it possibly be so low?
Because no one knows about them, at least not yet. For the last few years, they've been heads down developing the tech and their team. Instead of chasing press, they've been chasing patents. This earbud is protected by more than 20 different international patents. Everything from the earbud itself to the software to the applications. They were all developed in-house by this team over the last few years. And every one of them is protected by a different patent.
So everything that this company has built is patented. That's a huge store of value. If what you're saying is true, no one else can replicate this technology anywhere else in the world. That's worth, I don't know, a lot.
Exactly. This funding round should be the last chance, maybe the only chance to get in before this company blows up. If it just goes to market value, just goes to par with Neuralink, that's a 20x jump over the price you'll be getting in today.
A $500 stake today would be worth $10,000 at that valuation.
And that's just to get to a fair pre-revenue number, if you say the two technologies are exactly the same. I don't say that. If you ask me, this tech isn't just comparable to an implant, it's a lot better. Certainly from a consumer perspective it is.
What makes it so much better?
Well, those Neuralink implants, they have to be implanted. I'm not trying to be clever here, but if you've got the choice between two options and they both give you the same result, but option one requires actual invasive brain surgery and option two just requires you wear a specific set of earbuds, which are you going to go with?
Option two.
Every time. And that's even ignoring the price tag. And those implants, carry a huge price tag. The cheapest open brain procedures you can get cost about $20,000. Expensive procedures run around $150,000. And then, of course, there are the risks. Neuralink is testing their implants on monkeys right now. They can't get approved for human trials. Of the 23 monkeys they've implanted their sensors in, 15 have died. Ignore the recovery time for a literal neurosurgery. And even if nothing goes wrong, it's still creepy. I don't want to be attached to a computer whose only job is to read my thoughts. The Alexa on my kitchen counter is already pushing it. It's bad enough that Amazon's listening to my private conversations. I don't need them actually listening inside my brain.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And a lot of younger people already have earbuds that look exactly like these in their ears all the time. You don't have to train them to do anything new. You don't have to convince them it's worth dealing with a surgery that could cost $20,000 all on its own. You've just got to get them to switch which buds they're using in their ears. It's much easier to sell.
It is, and it opens the door to some huge markets. There's warehouse automation, because you can't just put a robot in a warehouse like you can on an assembly line. A human still has to direct that work. With these earbuds, one person could easily control dozens of robots. Target has already announced that they're going to spend $5 billion this year on warehouse and supply chain automation. That's one customer who's bigger than the entire global wheelchair market. I think this is going to be a billion-dollar company easily. We're not talking about doing it in 8 years. I'm predicting something close to 18 months, because there's a whole other potential customer we haven't even talked about yet.
An even bigger spender than Target?
Absolutely, the United States government. Earlier this year, Heidi Shyu, who is the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, said that simpler human-machine interface is at the top of the list of critical DoD technology projects. That's the #1 person in the U.S. military for all things science, flat out saying that developing this kind of tech is her #1 priority. And the Department of Defense has $720 billion to spend this year.
So it's not a stretch to imagine they could get a $100 million contract, $200 million contract, or a $2 billion contract, because that's the kind of money the government shells out when they want to solve a problem. That would be huge. Government spending is like rocket fuel for a small company.
Right. Look what it did for SpaceX. They signed dozens of government contracts over the years. The first one was in 2008 to fly cargo missions to the International Space Station, for which they got paid $1.6 billion. The most recent one was another $2.9 billion last year to help design a lunar lander.
All that government money has given those investors unheard of returns. When the first investors got in, SpaceX was worth just $27 million. Today, they're worth $125 billion. That's more than 460,000% growth.
Think about what that would do for the value of your portfolio. Why do you think the rich have always fought so hard to keep these deals to themselves? Because you put in $50,000 and make 460,000%, and you've got $260 million. So why did they keep regular people out of that deal? Why was the smallest investment they allowed north of $50,000? Because they're greedy. They say it's about protecting people from risk. And sure, there's risk when you invest. I'm not minimizing that. But just because you don't already have $1 billion doesn't mean you're an idiot. Don't put in more money than you can afford to lose. Everyone gets that. Just don't use that as an excuse to keep the highest upside investments on earth to yourselves. I mean, honestly, why are we here today? Why did I find a way to get our viewers into the billionaires reserve market? Because keeping these deals from the public pissed me off. This company is going to change the world. And I think everyone deserves the right to put $500 or $1,000 into a deal like that and take a chance at those kinds of gains. Look at Brex. They're a credit card processing company out of San Francisco. They went on the reserve market at the beginning of 2017. One early investor bought 7% of the company for $120,000. By the end of 2018, they were worth more than $1 billion. That's a 64,000% jump in under 2 years. Today, they're worth $12.3 billion.
Wow, that means 5 years later, their initial stake is worth more than $850 million.
Yes. OpenSea went even faster. They took their first penny from the billionaires reserve market in 2018. Today, they're worth more than $13 billion. You want to talk about growth? Those investors are 4 years in, and the value of the company has increased by more than 770,000%. Now, I don't know what the minimum investment was on a deal like that, but put that in perspective. Megan, if you got the numbers in front of you, we did that math before we started filming, I think. So what does that kind of gain do to $2,000?
It'd be more than $15.5 million.
Or look at Brex again. What happens to $600 at those multiples?
It turns into a little more than $4.3 million.
Exactly. But those deals had insane minimums, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for sure, these are the top performing peak examples of billionaires reserve market stuff. There's no reason they need to do that other than to exclude regular people. The companies we're looking at today are different. There are no restrictions. You don't need any special accreditation. You don't need $1 million. You can get in for just a couple $100. They want everyday people to have the same kinds of opportunities that billionaires have always had. I can't imagine a scenario where this company raises money again at valuations anything like this. You ask me, I predict the next round happens at north of $2 billion. So make your own decisions. But I think that's a way better use of $600 than dropping it in the S&P 500 and hoping it stops.
And remember, folks, deals like this only have room for a limited number of investors. So, Shah, how many people would you say this deal can hold?
It's impossible to say exactly, but sometimes you'll see as few as 50 or 60 people in a deal like this.
That makes the information Shah is sharing with you today incredibly valuable. Institutional investors would pay huge amounts of money for this kind of insight and access, because the chance to jump the queue and be one of the first people into a deal like this, that can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars to a big player. But here's why we're here today: to level that playing field, to give you the chance to compete with the big boys, so you can get in early on businesses that could be household names in the next 18 months, as recognizable as Moderna or Google or Airbnb. Remember that and take the opportunity seriously as we go forward. All right, Shah, we're going to hold all the details of how to invest in that first company for a minute or two and dive right into the next one.
All right. On the surface, this next company looks totally different. Within 2 years, I think everyone is going to be using these earbuds, but you're never going to use this next company's product, not unless you work in heavy industrial construction. Even so, I think they're still going to be a household name because where it matters, they're identical.
What do you mean?
When a company comes up on the billionaires reserve market, you don't have all the same information you get with a stock. You don't have 20 years of earnings to review. So I don't care what the company is. I don't care what they make. I don't care what industry they're in. I have 3 simple boxes I need them to check. Number 1, I need to see a functioning product. 2, that product has to solve a big problem in a growing market. And 3, they need to have customers in place. That last point is key. The reserve market is risky. Small companies go under all the time. So I don't want to invest in a good idea. I don't want a company that could change the world in 10 years if everything goes perfectly. I want to get in at the 2-yard line. I want my money to be the last little push it needs to potentially unlock billions of dollars in sales.
Like the deal we just looked at. They're raising money to close the funding gap for a very short window between where they are now and when their earbuds go live in electric wheelchairs.
Exactly. That last mile is the perfect place to invest. All the hard work's done. So you could get lucky, get in right before the value skyrockets.
And this next company is in the same spot.
All the companies we're looking at today are. Now, the deal we're talking about right now, I've never seen a company with a clearer path to billions of dollars in revenue. Tampa Electric alone spends around $250 million a year to address the problem this company's already solved. Dominion Energy in Virginia is spending $222 million a year. Florida Power and Light is looking at spending $577 million per year. Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, is going to spend about $4 billion a year on it. That's 5 customers spending $5 billion a year. That's how big the market is.
Now, those numbers are exciting, and utility companies can be great customers, but there's a lot of problems working in that space. It's highly regulated, so signing a partnership with one of those companies, game-changing as it is a practical impossibility for most startups. There are simply too many licenses and regulatory roadblocks.
Well, you're 100% correct. The roadblocks are real. Overcoming them is a massive amount of work. This company not only has a better solution to a huge problem, they're also 98% cheaper than their competition. They've also done all the legwork up front. They're already an approved utility in over a dozen states. Plus, they have federal approval to work on government lands, including offshore projects in federal waters.
That's huge. It means not only can they bid on massive projects, they're one of only a handful of companies who can. Without those approvals, you really can't compete for those $100 million, even billion-dollar contracts. It's a massive advantage.
That's right. And get this, PG&E is already a client. The company already completed a pilot project with them in California. So there's no question on if they land a partnership with a major player. They've already done it. We're just talking about scaling up. This company is faster than the competition. They're cheaper than the competition. PG&E is spending $40 billion over 10 years on a problem they've already solved. We estimate the company we're looking at today can get that project done for $4.8 billion. So the CEO of Pacific Gas and Electric has a simple choice. They can go with the competition, waste 10 years and $40 billion on multiple contracts, or they can be done in a fraction of the time, give themselves a $1 billion bonus for coming in ahead of schedule, and still finish the project $34 billion under budget. It's not a hard choice.
And one of those contracts with an established partner would make them a $1 billion company. That would mean huge rewards for their investors. You're right, it's the clearest path to $1 billion I've ever seen. So let's see it in action. What kind of projects are we talking about? What problems do they solve for these massive companies?
Believe it or not, they're a tunneling company. They build the kind of tunnels you can put a sewer in or a subway train or bury industrial power lines.
Those are huge projects. That's why those contracts are worth billions of dollars. How can this company build them for so much cheaper?
This is where the company gets really cool. You know how a conventional tunnel gets dug?
Not really.
They use a giant drill. A big, sharp cutting head spins in a circle. It's driven by a diesel engine. Then you push it into the ground or the rock as hard as you can. But this company's different. They don't grind through the rock with a drill. They vaporize it. Their machine takes a concentrated stream of plasma and melts it into nothing. All that's left is tiny particles of ash. They literally suck them out with a vacuum cleaner. It's cheaper. It's way faster. It's really, really cool to watch.
You've seen this in action?
I have. I actually have a video of them blasting through a chunk of rock. Would you like to see it?
Of course.
Well, let's go. All right, so that chunk of rock you're looking at is about 3 feet thick. Watch the front of that tube as they power it up. Then watch it eating into the rock. You can see it's already about 6 inches into the rock. A conventional tunneling machine bores 15 inches in an hour. So that hole you're looking at would have taken about 30 minutes to drill.
And that plasma cutter did it in just a few seconds. It's really that much faster.
It's really that much faster.
Now I see how they can be doing a $40 billion project for $4.8 billion. The difference in time and operating costs means they're aiming to be almost 10 times cheaper.
And that's on a relatively small tunnel. When you look at a giant tunnel, like the ones they put trains through, they're 50 times cheaper. In fact, there's a tunneling project happening right now in the UK. It's called H2. The British government is digging a 7,000-meter tunnel.
That's just over 4 miles.
Right. And for those 4 miles, they're paying 25,000 British pounds for every meter. There's no question about the cost on that, by the way. It's a publicly funded project, and all the costs were laid out in a report published by the British government. They're paying 25,000 British pounds, just over $30,000 per meter of tunnel. Digging with the plasma torch, the company we're looking at could do the same tunnel for $300 per meter. That's 1% of the cost, 99% cheaper.